Welcome to the Uncanny Valley podcast. Today we're embarking on a journey, really, into one of literature's most enduring tales, Homer's The Odyssey. But we're going to explore it through a rather unique and, I think, fascinating lens, Samuel Butler's translation.
That's right. And this isn't just about Ulysses' epic travels and, tribulation. It's really an opportunity to understand how a truly passionate and, well, sometimes idiosyncratic translator like Samuel Butler approached this ancient Greek masterpiece. You'll find that Butler's specific choices, his insights, even his questions about the text, they illuminate the narrative in really surprising ways. You get those aha moments about a story we might think we already know inside out.
Exactly. So our mission today is to extract the most compelling insights from this classic, guided by Butler's, well, distinct prose. Get ready for some new perspectives, unexpected nuances, and a story of perseverance that honestly still resonates across millennia.
The translator's lens, Samuel Butler's Odyssey.
Okay, let's begin by really trying to understand the mind behind this particular translation. Samuel Butler. What was it that compelled him to take on such a monumental task, to dive so deeply into a foundational text like the Odyssey?
Well, what's truly fascinating about Butler's motivation, and he states this quite clearly in his preface to the first edition, is that this translation wasn't actually his primary goal at first. He took it on specifically to, and I quote, supplement a work entitled The Authoress of the Odyssey, which I published in 1897. So he'd already done the translation work, but putting the whole epic into his previous book would have made it, as he put it, unwieldy.
Ah, okay, so it was sort of a companion piece then.
Exactly. His main aim here was to offer the complete Odyssey as a standalone work, and importantly, it was designed specifically for English readers, complete with useful notes. This tells you straight away he wasn't trying to create some dense academic tome.
Right, not just for scholars.
Precisely. In fact, he explicitly wanted to avoid a hopelessly scholasticized text. That signals a really clear desire for accessibility and broader appeal, which is quite a statement for such a challenging and, revered work.
It really sounds like he wasn't just some lone scholar hunched over ancient texts, was he? I mean, he even mentions collaborating with others, like getting permission from Lord Grimthorpe to publicize a specific note. That really underscores the level of detail and intellectual rigor Butler brought to it. Shows real dedication.
He absolutely did. You can really see his scholarly rigor in how he engaged with the wider academic world. For instance, he initially marked up his manuscript with marginal references to the Iliad, to highlight those crucial connections between Homer's two epics.
Oh, interesting. Did those make it into the final version?
Well, no. He ultimately chose not to include them in the published translation. Again, the reason was to keep it accessible for that wider audience. But he was still passionate about their value. He actively urged university presses to publish Greek texts of the Odyssey with these Iliadic passages highlighted. He thought it would be invaluable for students and scholars.
So he was really thinking about how people learned and studied these texts.
Totally. And to back it up, he even provided marked copies to the British Museum. So for him, it wasn't just about translating the words. It was about deeply engaging with Homeric scholarship and actually contributing to its understanding.
He truly sounds like more than just a translator then. He's an interpreter, almost trying to get inside the head of the original author. For example, you mentioned his footnotes. What about the one on the spoiling of food, or his observation about Penelope's stalling tactics? What do those tell us about Butler?
Ah, the food thing is fascinating. What Butler picks up on is this surprisingly consistent, almost profound concern for, well, wasted food, even right in the middle of the brutal slaughter of the suitors, when Antonius gets hit by Ulysses' arrow.
Yeah.
The narrative actually pauses to mention that the bread and roasted meats were all soiled as they fell over onto the ground. And Butler's footnote specifically calls this out. The reader will note how the spoiling of good food distresses the writer even in such a supreme moment as this.
Wow. Even then.
Even then. And just lines later, another footnote pops up. Here we have it again. Waste of substance comes first.
Yeah.
Butler argues this isn't just a casual detail. He thinks it reveals a deep, almost visceral aversion to waste in the original author. A really practical concern.
That's amazing. It brings it down to earth somehow.
It does. It's a reminder that even in these epics of gods and heroes, very human anxieties can surface. And as for Penelope's stalling, the famous weaving trick, where she weaves by day and unweaves by night.
Right, the shroud for Laertes.
Exactly. Well, the story explains that. Butler specifically wonders why she couldn't just outright refuse the suitors. This shows Butler's critical eye. He's always looking for deeper motivations, maybe even inconsistencies, He's engaging with the text like it's alive, not just accepting it at face value. It's a very human touch to his scholarship.
The son's quest, Telemachus' coming of age.
Okay, so we've looked at Butler's unique way of approaching the text, but let's dive into the story itself. What's striking is that the Odyssey doesn't immediately throw us into Ulysses' big adventures. It starts at home in Ithaca, which is in, well, complete crisis. What's the situation there right at the start?
Oh, it's dire. It's really bordering on anarchy. Ulysses' home has been completely overrun by, get this, over 100 insolent suitors, as Telemachus bitterly calls them.
100, wow.
Yeah, and they are literally making havoc of my estate. They're consuming his wealth, slaughtering his cattle and sheep for these endless, lavish banquets. And they're brazenly pressuring his wife, Penelope, to pick one of them to marry.
And Telemachus is just a boy, really.
Exactly. He's still very young, feels utterly powerless against their sheer numbers and arrogance. He puts it quite poignantly. I cannot hold my own against them. My house is being disgraced and ruined. In his eyes, these guys are just parasites, sponging upon one man, eating his legacy, disrespecting everything. It's awful.
It really feels like Telemachus needs something or someone to push him, to give him a spark.
Yeah.
And this is where the goddess Minerva steps in. What's interesting about her approach, it's not just a big divine zap, is it?
No, not at all. And that's a great point. Minerva doesn't just wave a magic wand. She comes disguised as mentor, an old family friend, and confronts Telemachus directly. She challenges his inaction with this blunt statement, "You are too old to plead infancy any longer."
Ouch. Direct.
Very direct. It's less a command, more a powerful challenge, forcing him to look at himself. And then, to really stir him up, she cleverly brings up Orestes, the son who avenged his father Agamemnon's murder.
Ah, setting an example.
Precisely. It's a subtle but potent encouragement, a direct call to action, hinting at the glory Telemachus could win if he steps up. She advises him to call a proper assembly, denounce the suitors publicly, and then this is the big one, embark on a dangerous sea voyage to Pylos and Sparta to get news of his father.
So push him out of the nest, basically.
Absolutely. And she promises divine support, saying, "If you are made of the same stuff as your father, you will be neither fool nor coward henceforward." It's all about empowering him to act, not just acting for him.
It's that classic hero's journey kickoff, isn't it? Pushed by a god. And Telemachus, emboldened, actually does it. He confronts the suitors in a full assembly, even though they just mock him. You can feel his desperation when he dashes his staff to the ground and bursts into tears after his speech.
That emotional outburst, yeah. And the suitors' reaction, first stunned silence, they bit their lips and marveled at the boldness of his speech. It shows the immediate impact. But their arrogance snaps right back. Antinous, he's the main one, immediately turns it around and blames Penelope.
Of course he does.
Right. He calls her artful, accuses her of leading them on with false promises, while secretly unweaving that funeral pall for Laertes by night for 3 years.
Which in itself shows Penelope's own incredible cleverness and resilience, doesn't it?
Absolutely. She told them, Ulysses is dead, yes, but don't press me to marry yet. Wait, I don't want my skill in needlework to perish unrecorded till I finish this pall for Laertes. She was buying time, a masterclass in passive resistance, and they only found out about her trick in her 4th year because a disloyal maid spilled the beans.
Amidst all this chaos and blame shifting, we get that fascinating bit of prophecy from Halitherses. He foretells Ulysses' return in the 20th year and adds ominously that no one would know him. That just layers on the dramatic irony, doesn't it? We, the audience, know what's coming.
It absolutely does. Halitherses, the old seer, he warns them with total conviction. He says, "Everything has happened to Ulysses as I foretold. I said that after going through much hardship and losing all his men, he should come home again in the 20th year, and that no one would know him, and now all this is coming true." It's stark.
But the suitors just laugh it off.
Completely. They're blinded by their own arrogance, comfortable in their lifestyle. Eurymachus just dismisses him. "Go home, old man, and prophesy to your own children." They refuse to believe anything that challenges their power. Classic denial, really, and it seals their fate.
Despite the mockery and threats, Minerva keeps supporting Telemachus. She basically clears the path for him, puts the suitors to sleep, helps him get a crew, and that farewell to the nurse Euryclea is so poignant, isn't it? She's terrified for him, but has to keep quiet. Then they sail off under a fair wind from the west. Feels like a sigh of relief.
It really does. Minerva ensures the suitors are totally out of it, making their drink to fuddle them, so they just stumble off to bed. She then guides Telemachus, disguised as mentor, to the ship. And yeah, the scene with Euryclea is heartbreaking. She weeps, begs him not to go, afraid he'll die like his father, and the suitors will just carve up everything. But Telemachus makes her swear this solemn oath not to tell Penelope for 10 or 12 days unless she hears about it herself, because he doesn't want her crying and spoiling her beauty.
Wow, even then thinking of his mother.
Right, and the departure itself, it's described with such speed and grace. Minerva sent them a fair wind from the west. The ship flew through the deep blue water. It feels like a truly auspicious start to his journey.
So Telemachus sets sail on this crucial quest. He gets to Pylos first, meets the venerable Nestor, a king who's reigned for 3 generations and fought with Ulysses. What does he learn from this ancient sage? Does it help him understand his own situation?
Oh, Nestor is a living history book, absolutely. He recounts all the chaos after the Trojan War. He talks about that fatal argument between Agamemnon and Menelaus about whether to sail home right away or stay and sacrifice to Minerva. Then he vividly describes Agamemnon's tragic murder by Aegisthus and Clytemnestra when he got back.
Oh, right. The ultimate homecoming horror story.
Exactly. And then he talks about Orestes, Agamemnon's son, getting revenge 8 years later. This whole story serves as a really stark warning to Telemachus about the dangers a hero faces coming home, and crucially, the importance of having a loyal son to uphold honor and get justice. Nestor explicitly tells him, see what a good thing it is for a man to leave a son behind him to do as Orestes did. It's a direct parallel, offering both a warning and sort of a blueprint for dealing with the suitors.
Okay, so from Pylos, Telemachus goes to Sparta to see Menelaus, Agamemnon's brother. And the palace there is described as incredibly wealthy, 2 baths, both of pure silver, gold, tripods. Quite the contrast to rundown Ithaca. And there he meets Helen, the Helen.
Yeah, the description of Menelaus's palace is just breathtaking. Spoils from Troy, gifts from Egypt. It's opulent. And Helen, she's older now, seems wiser, maybe a bit remorseful. She recognizes Telemachus, instantly says he looks just like Ulysses.
Does she offer any insight?
She does. She shares this powerful story about Ulysses' cunning, how he snuck into Troy disguised as a beggar to gather intelligence, and even more striking, how inside the wooden horse he clamped his hand over Anticlus's mouth to stop him crying out when Helen called out the names of the Greek heroes mimicking their wives' voices.
Wow. Incredible self-control.
Exactly. It highlights Ulysses' unique mix of bravery and sheer cleverness. It's a glimpse of the father Telemachus barely knows.
And Menelaus, he has his own story, right? Being stuck in Egypt, having to consult Proteus, the old man of the sea. This is where Telemachus gets the first real news.
Yes, that's the pivotal moment. Menelaus was stuck in Egypt because his sacrifices, his hecatombs, weren't quite up to snuff for the gods. Shows you how seriously they took that stuff. So he had to capture Proteus, the shape-shifting sea god who knows everything about the seabed, and Proteus finally reveals where Ulysses is. Sorrowing bitterly in the house of the nymph Calypso, who is keeping him prisoner, stuck there with no ship, no crew.
Finally. Some concrete information.
Exactly. Proteus also tells Menelaus his own fate, a peaceful end in the Elysian plain, this paradise with no rain or snow, just a soft west wind. But for Telemachus, that news about Ulysses is huge. It gives him a real goal, a reason to believe his father might still be alive.
But the danger isn't over for Telemachus just because he has news. Back home, the suitors find out he took a ship.
They find out from Noemon, the guy who lent it to him, and plot a deadly ambush in the straits between Ithaca and Samos.
The servant Medaldon overhears this, warns Penelope. She must have been frantic, adds another layer of threat.
Oh, completely frantic. The suitors, led by Antinous again, realize Telemachus isn't just playing games. When Noemon casually lets slip he lent the ship, Antinous immediately plots. Find me a ship with a crew of 20 men, and I will lie in wait for him. He will then rue the day that he set out. Penelope's reaction when Medaldon tells her is just sheer despair. Her heart sank within her, speechless, her eyes filled with tears. She's furious. None of her maids warned her. It's pure maternal anguish.
And again, Minerva steps in, right? Sends Penelope a vision of her sister, Iphthime, to reassure her. And as Telemachus leaves Menelaus, he picks up this seer, Theoclymenus, who interprets an omen, an eagle with a dove, saying Telemachus' house will be the most royal in Ithaca. Feels like destiny is really starting to move.
The divine support is constant. That vision of Iphthime tells Penelope explicitly, your son has done them no wrong, so he will yet come back to you. Huge relief for her. And for Telemachus, that omen is just as powerful. As they're sailing away, an eagle flies by, holding a dove, tearing its feathers out. Theoclymenus reads it clear as day. Quote, that bird did not fly in your right hand without some god. It means that you will remain powerful and that there will be no house in Ithaca more royal than your own. It gives his return the sense of destined triumph, countering the threat from the suitors.
Ulysses' tortuous path to Phaeacia.
Okay, so while Telemachus is having his coming-of-age adventure, what about Ulysses himself? Where has he been all this time? The story shifts now to his current situation, held captive by the goddess Calypso.
Right. Ulysses has been stuck with the cunning and powerful goddess Calypso, daughter of Atlas, on her remote island Ogygia for 7 long years. 7
That's
years.
agonizing.
Completely. He's described as sorrowing bitterly, just consumed by longing for home. The breakthrough finally comes when Zeus, prompted by Minerva pleading that her heart bleeds for Ulysses stuck on that lonely sea-girt island, decrees his release. He sends Mercury with the message. It's decreed that he shall not perish here, but shall return to his house and country. It's the moment we've been waiting for.
Calypso's reaction to this is just brilliant, isn't it? Not just sad, but properly furious. Jealous, even. She basically accuses the male gods of hypocrisy, saying they hate it when goddesses take mortal lovers, like Dawn did with Orion. Adds a very human layer to her.
Oh, her outburst is fantastic. It gives you a real glimpse into the messy social lives of the Olympians. As she rails, you gods ought to be ashamed of yourselves. You are always jealous. She brings up how when rosy-fingered Dawn made love to Orion, you precious gods were all of you furious till Diana went and killed him. It's this deeply personal accusation, highlighting the double standards. Makes her a more complex figure, caught between her desire and Zeus's command.
But despite her anger, she has to obey. Still, Ulysses, ever the cautious one, makes her swear a solemn oath not to plot against him before he'll even agree to build a raft.
Then she helps him with supplies. It shows this mix of anger, resentment, obedience, maybe even some lingering affection. That's exactly it. Ulysses demands total assurance. Nothing shall make me go on board a raft unless you first solemnly swear that you mean me no mischief. Calypso, with a wry smile apparently, swears, by heaven above and earth below, with the waters of the river Styx, the most solemn oath possible. And then she does help him, gives him tools, timber, cloth for sails, food, wine, shows she's complying, even generously, despite being clearly frustrated and wanting to keep him.
But even with Calypso letting him go, his troubles aren't over. The sea god Neptune still holds that bitter grudge, right?
Oh, absolutely. Neptune is still furious that Ulysses blinded his son, Polyphemus the Cyclops. He spots Ulysses on his little raft and just unleashes hell, conjures up all the winds together and a tremendous sea got up. The raft is smashed to bits. Ulysses is clinging to wreckage, totally despairing, wishing he'd died heroically at Troy instead. Blessed and thrice blessed were those Danaans who fell before Troy. It's a moment of real vulnerability.
And then another goddess steps in. Ino, or Leucothea. She gives him that enchanted veil to help him swim.
Yes, Ino sees him struggling, takes pity. She appears like a seagull and tells him to strip off, leave the raft, and swim for the Phaeacian coast. She gives him her enchanted veil, promising he can come to no harm so long as you wear it. Ulysses, naturally suspicious after everything, hesitates, thinks it might be another trick. But really, what choice does he have?
None, basically.
Right. Neptune sends another huge wave, smashes the last bits of the raft, so Ulysses straps the veil on and just plunges into the sea, relying purely on his endurance and her magic.
And he struggles then for, 2 days and 2 nights, battling waves, rocks, just trying to find somewhere to land. Finally finds shelter under some olive shoots on the Phaeacian coast. Exhausted.
Utterly exhausted. The description is vivid. He hears the surf thundering against rocks, sees spray everywhere, no harbors, only headlands, low-lying rocks, and mountaintops. He thinks Jove let him see land just to smash him against it. He finally finds refuge under these 2 shoots of olive that grew from a single stalk, one wild, one grafted, forming this perfect, weatherproof shelter. He makes a bed of leaves big enough for 2 or 3 men and just collapses into sleep. A true testament to his will to survive.
So this brings him to the land of the Phaeacians. Seems like a completely different world. How does he meet Nausicaa, who's so key to his rescue?
Well, Minerva's still pulling the strings. She visits Nausicaa, King Alcinous's daughter, in a dream. Disguised as a friend, she subtly nudges her to go wash clothes by the river, hinting about marriage preparations. So Nausicaa, who's described as lovely as a goddess, goes down with her maids. After washing, they start playing ball. And Minerva makes the ball go near Ulysses, waking him up.
Perfectly timed.
Divinely orchestrated. A deliberate encounter between the naked, battered hero and the innocent princess. Sets up his rescue.
And Ulysses, even in that state, manages to be incredibly diplomatic. He doesn't grab her knees like a typical suppliant, but compares her beauty to a palm tree he saw on Delos. That's smooth.
It's brilliant. A masterclass intact. He knows approaching a young princess naked and covered in brine could go very wrong. So instead of physical begging, he uses flattery in this really poignant analogy. He tells her, "Never yet did such a young plant shoot out as that was, and I admired and wondered at it exactly as I now admire and wonder at yourself. I dare not clasp your knees, but I am in great distress."
Oh.
It appeals to her compassion and vanity all at once, making her want to help without scaring her off.
And Nausicaa, she's sensible and kind, gives him clothes, food, directs him to her father's palace, but tells him how to approach cautiously. Minerva keeps guiding him too, wraps him in mists so the xenophobic Phaeacians don't hassle him, shows him the amazing garden at Alcinous's palace, perpetually fruiting trees, streams, like paradise after the sea.
Exactly. Nausicaa tells him exactly how to approach her parents, especially the queen, Arete. And Minerva's mist is vital because the Phaeacians cannot abide strangers. The garden itself is mythical: pears, pomegranates, delicious apples, luscious figs, olives. The fruit never fails, neither winter nor summer, because the air is so soft. Two streams provide water. It really symbolizes the Phaeacians' blessed, easy life, a world away from Ulysses' suffering.
So he gets to Alcinous's palace, and the hospitality is just off the charts. They even offer him Nausicaa's hand in marriage. And then comes the famous blind bard Demodocus. He's kind of the catalyst for the big reveal, isn't he?
The hospitality is extraordinary. Alcinous is clearly impressed by Ulysses, even hints he wishes Ulysses would stay, marry Nausicaa, become his son-in-law. Then Demodocus the bard is called, and he sings of the Trojan War. Crucially, he sings with the quarrel between Achilles and Ulysses, and later the wooden horse. This is the turning point. Ulysses tries to hide it, pulls his cloak over his head, but he can't stop weeping silently, and Alcinous notices.
Ah, the king clocks it.
He does. He realizes his guest is no ordinary wanderer, but a hero connected to these very events. The mask is starting to slip.
Then the Phaeacians have their games running, wrestling, discus. But one of them, Euryalus, insults Ulysses, calls him a fool. That must have stung.
Yeah, the games show off Phaeacian culture, athletic, but not warlike. Euryalus' insult is just pure arrogance. He says something like, "You look good, but you're a fool. Your comments made me angry." That's a direct challenge, really. Provokes Ulysses, gives him the chance to show he's still got it, despite appearances.
And Ulysses responds with power, right? Throws the discus way farther than anyone, boasts about his archery, says he's better than anyone alive except Philoctetes. He admits he's weakened by the sea, but proves he's still a hero. And the Phaeacians admit they're not fighters, more into fleet of foot, sailing, good dinners, music, and dancing. Paints a picture of this leisure society.
Oh, his response is epic. He grabs this huge, heavy discus, heavier than theirs, and hurls it so far it lands way beyond everyone else's mark. Then he boasts about his archery, claiming he excels everyone else, who still eat bread upon the face of the earth, but he modestly admits running isn't his strong suit anymore after all his sea troubles. And the Phaeacians confirm their identity. They loved good dinners, music, and dancing. We also like frequent changes of linen, warm baths, and good beds. This contrast sets them up as this peaceful, cultured society, almost untouched by the harsh world Ulysses knows, makes them the perfect audience for his story.
And as a final act of hospitality, they shower him with gifts, cloaks, shirts, gold from every chief. Huge generosity. It feels like they're almost paying him in advance for the story he's about to tell, acknowledging his status before he even reveals it.
Exactly. Alcinous orders each of the 12 chief men, and counting myself there are 13, to give a clean cloak, a shirt, and a talent of fine gold. An astonishing amount. It's not just generosity, it's profound respect for this unknown guest. They sense his nobility, his suffering. It's the ultimate welcome, making him comfortable, ready to share. They've essentially paid for his truth, and now he's ready to deliver.
Ulysses' own account, a hero's ordeal.
Okay, so this is the moment. Ulysses, moved by their kindness, finally reveals who he is and starts recounting his 20 years of suffering right from the fall of Troy. We get the hero's own voice now.
Yes, and it's a relentless catalog of hardship. He begins with the Cicones. After sacking their city, Ismarus, his men got greedy, ignored his orders to leave quickly, and lingered too long.
Big mistake.
Huge. The Cicones regrouped, attacked, killed many of his men. Then foul winds blew them off course to the land of the lotus eaters. And eating the lotus there made his men completely forget their homes, lose all desire to return. It highlights the psychological dangers, not just monsters, but losing the will to go on.
Which brings us to one of the most famous bits, the Cyclops, Polyphemus. How does Ulysses describe this encounter? It's terrifying.
Polyphemus is portrayed as utterly monstrous, a lawless giant living in a cave, part of the Cyclops, a fierce, uncivilized folk who do not till the earth but trust in providence. He just grabs Ulysses' men and eats them raw. Pure barbarity. But this is where Ulysses' cunning really shines. He gets the Cyclops drunk on that potent wine from Marin, the priest of Apollo, and then gives him the fake name No Man. Brilliant setup.
And then the blinding with the sharpened olive stake. Gruesome, but necessary. Followed by that ingenious escape clinging to the undersides of the rams. Intelligence versus brute force.
Exactly. He and 4 men take that huge green olive stake, heat the point in the fire, and drive it into the Cyclops' single eye while he's passed out drunk. For the escape, as Polyphemus lets his sheep out, feeling their backs, Ulysses ties his men under the bellies of rams, 3 lashed together while he clings to the biggest ram himself. They slip right under the giant's hands. It's unparalleled resourcefulness.
But then, the hubris. Ulysses just can't resist shouting his real name back at the blinded giant, which leads Polyphemus to curse him, praying to his father, Poseidon. That one act causes so much of his later suffering.
It's the fatal flaw, the moment that seals his fate for years of hardship. His men beg him, don't be mad enough to provoke this savage creature further. But Ulysses is consumed by pride. He yells back, Cyclops, if anyone asks you who it was, say it was the valiant warrior Ulysses, son of Laertes, who dwells in Ithaca. And boom. That gives Polyphemus exactly what he needs to call down Poseidon's wrath. That boast costs him dearly. It's almost tragic.
So what happens next on this cursed voyage? It seems to go from bad to worse after that.
It really does. First, they reach Aeolus, king of the winds. He gives Ulysses this amazing gift, a bag tied up containing all the contrary winds, leaving only the west wind free to blow them home.
Sounds perfect. Too perfect.
Way too perfect. His crew gets suspicious. They think the bag is full of gold and silver that Ulysses is hoarding. So just as Ithaca is in sight, they open the bag. Whoosh! All the winds rush out, blow them all the way back to Aeolus. And Aeolus, seeing this, figures they must be cursed by the gods and refuses to help them again. So close, yet so far.
Then things get even more horrific. Balestragonians.
Giant cannibals. Pure nightmare fuel. They're described as ogres, not men. They stand on the cliffs and hurl massive rocks down onto the ships in the harbor, as though they had been mere stones. Ulysses describes the horrid sound of the ships crunching up and his men being speared like fishes and carried off to be eaten. Only Ulysses' ship escapes because he'd smartly moored it outside the harbor. A total massacre. Shows how monstrous the world outside civilization could be.
And after that horror, they reach Circe's island, where his men get turned into pigs. More magic, more transformation. But this time, help arrives.
Yes. Circe, the powerful sorceress, drugs their food, taps them with her wand, and poof, pigs. Except for Eurylochus, who suspected a trap and stayed outside to warn Ulysses. Then Mercury appears to Ulysses, gives him the magical herb Molly Blackroot White Flower, which protects him from Circe's spells. Ulysses confronts her, sword drawn, terrifies her, and makes her swear a solemn oath by all the blessed gods that she will plot no further mischief.
And she restores his men.
She does, and apparently they come back younger than they were before, and much taller and better looking, quite the makeover. They end up staying with her for a whole year, feasting, recovering. A needed break, but still another year lost.
After that year, Circe sends him to the underworld to consult the blind prophet Tiresias. That's a seriously dark turn in the journey.
It is one of the most solemn parts. He has to perform this ritual. Circe taught him dig a trench, pour offerings of honey, milk, wine, water, sprinkle barley meal, then sacrifice a ram and a black ewe, letting the blood flow into the trench to attract the ghosts.
Creepy. Who does he see first?
First, his own comrade Elpenor, who tragically died falling off Circe's roof drunk, and begs Ulysses to go back and give him proper burial rites. And then, incredibly sadly, he sees the ghost of his own mother, Anticlea. He didn't even know she died, learned she died of grief, waiting for him. Just devastating.
Oh, man. And then Tiresias delivers his prophecy. It's crucial, right? Warns about Poseidon, stresses leaving Helios's cattle alone on Thrinacia, foretells trouble with the suitors, and that final weird quest with an oar.
Tiresias' prophecy is basically the roadmap for the rest of the story. He confirms Poseidon's bitter grudge. He's absolutely emphatic about the cattle of Helios, the sun god. If you leave these flocks unharmed, you may yet after much hardship reach Ithaca, but if you harm them, I forewarn you of the destruction both of your ship and of your men.
No ambiguity there.
None. He also confirms the trouble back home. You will find trouble in your house, which will be overrun by high-handed people, devouring your substance. And then that final, strange quest. Carry an oar inland until he finds people who know nothing of the sea and do not even mix salt with their food, know nothing about ships, nor oars that are as the wings of a ship. There, he has to plant the oar, sacrifice to Neptune, then go home and sacrifice to all the other gods. Only then is he promised a gentle death coming from the sea in his old age. It's deeply connected to his whole ordeal.
He talks to other heroes down there too, right?
Mhm.
Agamemnon, Achilles, Ajax. What's their take on the afterlife?
Yeah, Agamemnon's ghost gives him this dark warning about women based on his own murder by Clytemnestra. Don't be too friendly, even with your own wife. Do not tell her all that you know. Though importantly, he makes an exception for Penelope, praising her.
Good save.
Right. Achilles offers that incredibly poignant lament. He says, I had rather be a serf on earth, who had but little food, than be a king among the dead. A stark contrast to the glory he sought in life. The underworld is bleak, and Ajax, still bitter about losing Achilles' armor to Ulysses, just turns his back, refuses to speak. That pride, that anger persists even after death.
So armed with these warnings, Ulysses faces the last sea perils. First, the Sirens. What's their big temptation? It's not just a pretty song, is it?
No, Circe advises him perfectly here. Tie himself to the mast, have his men plug their ears with wax. He alone hears the song. And their promise isn't just pleasure, it's knowledge. They sing, we know all that has happened, and all that is going to happen over the whole world. Universal knowledge. Resisting that temptation reaffirms Ulysses' focus on getting home. It's a test of prioritizing purpose over ultimate insight.
And then the awful choice. Scylla, the six-headed monster, or Charybdis, the giant whirlpool, a classic no-win scenario.
One of the most agonizing choices. Circe describes Scylla as this dreadful monster with 6 heads, 12 feet. Charybdis sucks down and vomits up the sea 3 times a day. Ulysses wants to fight Scylla, but Circe warns him it's impossible. He has to follow her advice. Sail closer to Scylla and sacrifice 6 men, 1 for each head, rather than risk losing the entire ship and everyone to Charybdis. It's a brutal leadership decision. Choose the lesser but still horrific evil.
And finally, the last, tragic mistake. The one Tiresias and Circe explicitly warned against, the cattle of Helios. This is where it all falls apart for the crew.
This is the ultimate failure of his men. Pure disobedience driven by human weakness. Ulysses makes them swear a solemn oath not to touch the sun god's sacred cattle, but a month-long storm traps them on Thrinacia. They run out of food. While Ulysses is asleep, Eurylochus convinces the crew, arguing that starving is the worst death of all, so they slaughter and eat the cattle. Helios is enraged, demands justice from Zeus, and Zeus, fulfilling the prophecy, smashes their ship with a thunderbolt as soon as they set sail. Ulysses is the only survivor. Clinging to wreckage, he gets swept back through Charybdis and Scylla again, eventually washing up on Calypso's island, which brings his story to the Phaeacians full circle. A tragic end for his crew, all down to that one act.
The homecoming, disguise, and recognition.
Okay, so after telling this epic, harrowing tale, Ulysses finally makes it back to Ithaca. The Phaeacians drop him off. But there's still one last divine setup before he can just walk back into his life, right?
Right. The Phaeacians, amazing host to the end, sail the sleeping Ulysses home, leaving him and all those incredible gifts on the shore. But Poseidon gets his final revenge on them. As their ship is returning, he turns it into stone, roots it in the harbor as a warning. Don't mess with Poseidon by helping his enemies. A final flex from the sea god.
And Ulysses wakes up completely disoriented, doesn't even recognize his own homeland. After 20 years, the irony is brutal. This is when Minerva steps in again, explains things, gives him the beggar disguise.
Yeah, his confusion is intense. He thinks the Phaeacians dumped him somewhere else, feels betrayed. Minerva appears, gently chides him for his lack of trust, and explains she couldn't openly help him before because she didn't want to fight her uncle Neptune. Then she does this interesting double transformation. First, she makes him look like his impressive self again, briefly, for Telemachus, but then immediately touches him with her wand again and turns him into this miserable old man in old clothes, specifically so the swineherd Eumaeus won't recognize him and spill the beans to Penelope. The disguise is crucial, not just for secrecy, but for reconnaissance.
This brings us to Eumaeus, the loyal swineherd. He really is the gold standard for loyalty, isn't he? Still grieving, still caring for the pigs, welcomes the disguised Ulysses with genuine kindness.
Eumaeus is the absolute best, constantly lamenting, "I have lost the best of masters." He cares for the pigs diligently, even buys new ones on his own account, with his own money, while Ulysses is gone. When the disguised Ulysses shows up, Eumaeus' dogs attack, and Eumaeus instantly protects the stranger, showing immediate compassion even before knowing who he is. He offers him food, saying, "Fall to, stranger. The fat pigs have to go to the suitors." But the blessed gods love not such shameful doings. His instant generosity and loyalty to his master's principles, even in absence, are remarkable.
And Ulysses, playing his part, spins this elaborate fake backstory. Says he's a Cretan, traveled widely, heard rumors of Ulysses, testing Eumaeus' loyalty, getting the lay of the land, but Eumaeus stays skeptical about Ulysses actually returning.
Ulysses' story is brilliant. Calls himself Aethon, son of a rich Cretan. Weaves this tale of sailing to Troy, a disastrous raid on Egypt, betrayal by a Phoenician, shipwreck, all very convincing. He even claims to have hosted Ulysses in Crete and heard news of him recently. But Eumaeus has heard too many hopeful lies from tramps looking for a handout. He says, "Old man, no traveler who comes here will get Ulysses' wife and son to believe his story." But he still speaks of Ulysses with reverence, confirming his loyalty, even if he doesn't believe this story. It's a smart way for Ulysses to get an honest assessment.
Then comes that powerful reunion. Telemachus returns from his trip, heads straight to Eumaeus' hut, just as Minerva planned. She reveals Ulysses' true form to his son, gives them that moment to connect and plan in secret.
Yeah, Minerva tells Ulysses, "It is now time for you to tell your son. Lay your plans for the destruction of the suitors." She touches Ulysses with her golden wand, transforms him back. He becomes younger and of more imposing presence. She gave him back his color. His dark beard grew thick. A dramatic reveal for Telemachus, meant to convince him it's really his father, with divine backing.
And the reunion itself, Telemachus is stunned, right? Thinks it's a god tricking him.
His reaction is totally understandable. He cries out, "You are not my father, but some god is flattering me with vain hopes." He can't believe a mortal could change appearance like that. Ulysses then kisses him and sheds a tear, a rare moment of vulnerability. He reassures him, "There is no other Ulysses. Such as I am, it is I. What you wonder at is the work of Minerva," confirming it's really him, back after 20 years with goddess-level help.
So they're reunited, they make their plan. Telemachus goes back to the palace, pretends everything is normal. Ulysses follows as the beggar, and crucially, they'll remove the suitors' weapons from the hall. Setting the trap.
It's a meticulous plan. Ulysses tells Telemachus to go home, mingle with the suitors. Ulysses will follow, brought by Eumaeus. Key instruction: Telemachus must steel your heart against my sufferings if the suitors abuse the beggar, even if they drag him out or throw things. He should gently try to reason with them, but expect them not to listen. And the core strategy: get all the weapons out of the main hall, claiming it's to prevent drunken brawls. Leaves the suitors totally disarmed for the showdown. Brilliant deception.
As Ulysses makes his way to his own palace, disguised, he sees the full extent of the suitors' awfulness firsthand. And that heartbreaking moment with his old dog, Argos.
Oh, Argos, it's devastating. The dog, after 20 years, neglected, lying on a dung heap, still recognizes Ulysses. Dropped his ears and wagged his tail, but he could not get close up. Ulysses sheds a tear, unseen. And then Argos dies, a symbol of Ithaca's suffering and ultimate loyalty. Inside the hall, the abuse is immediate. Mockery, insults. Antinous, the worst of them, throws a footstool, hitting Ulysses on the shoulder blade. Supreme disrespect, foreshadowing his own fate.
And Penelope hears about this cruelty, expresses her hatred for Antinous, asks to speak with the stranger. She senses something different about this beggar.
She hears about the footstool incident and is furious. Exclaims, "Would that Apollo would so strike you, Antinous." Her waiting woman agrees. Penelope tells her nurse, "I hate Antinous like the darkness of death itself." Her instant reaction to the insult against a suppliant shows her own sense of justice, aligns her with the disguised Ulysses. It hints she's shrewder than they think.
Ulysses, still the beggar, even gets into a boxing match with another beggar, Iris. Wins easily, showing he's still got the power underneath the rags, and then warns Anthemius, the nicer suitor, to leave.
Yeah, the fight with Iris, this filthy glutton, is a clear display of Ulysses' hidden strength. Iris insults him. They fight. Ulysses breaks his jaw with one punch, a subtle warning to the others. And then, showing some discernment, he warns Amphinomus, who seemed less awful than the others. "Consider the infamy. See how they are wasting the estate of one who is certain to return. Nay, he will be here soon. May heaven send you home quietly first." It shows a glimmer of mercy, an offer of escape, but also the certainty of doom for those who stay.
Then Penelope makes her appearance, divinely beautified by Minerva, tricks the suitors into giving her gifts, and later she has that private chat with the disguised Ulysses, charged moment.
Minerva makes her stunning, taller, and of a more commanding figure. Her complexion, whiter than sawn ivory. Penelope then cunningly plays the suitors, hinting at marriage to get them to shower her with presents and gifts, basically restocking her own treasury at their expense. Later, she questions the beggar. Ulysses spins that detailed Cretan backstory again, claiming he hosted Ulysses years ago, describing his exact clothes, a unique gold brooch. These details, which Penelope knows are true, make her weep, convinced this stranger really knew her husband.
And then the ultimate recognition moment. Euryclea, the old nurse, washes the beggar's feet and finds the scar from the boar hunt on Mount Parnassus. Undeniable proof. But Ulysses has to silence her quick.
It's incredibly moving. Euryclea washes his feet, notes the resemblance. No one ever yet came who is so like Ulysses in figure, voice, and feet as you are. Then her hands find it, that distinctive scar from his youth. She knew what it was at once. She's about to cry out, but Ulysses grabs her throat, whispers fiercely, "Silence, old woman. If heaven grants me to take the lives of these suitors, I will not spare you, though you are my own nurse." Stark, but the secrecy is paramount.
Penelope, still unaware it's actually him, tells him about her dream. An eagle, Ulysses, killing her geese, the suitors. Ulysses, as the beggar, confirms her interpretation. It must strengthen her resolve.
Her dream is powerfully prophetic. An eagle swoops down, kills all her geese. Then in the dream, the eagle speaks with a human voice. "Be of good courage. This is no dream. The geese are the suitors, and I am your own husband, who will bring these suitors to a disgraceful end." Ulysses, still disguised, confirms it. This dream can admit but of one interpretation: the death of the suitors is portended. It creates this bond of shared understanding, even though she doesn't consciously know it's him yet.
And finally, Penelope announces the contest, the Tournament of Axes. String Ulysses' own great bow, shoot an arrow through 12 axe heads. Whoever wins gets her hand in marriage. This is it. The stage is set for the climax.
This is her masterstroke, the ultimate test, and the perfect setup for the slaughter. She lays out the challenge her husband used to perform. She declares she'll marry whoever shall string it most easily and send his arrow through each one of 12 axes. Ulysses, the beggar, encourages her, tells her not to delay, assuring her cryptically that Ulysses will return ere ever they can string the bow. Powerful foreshadowing of his own triumph.
The cleansing battle and retribution.
The tension is just immense as Penelope brings out Ulysses' mighty bow. And the suitors, despite all their boasting, they just can't string it. Proves their unworthiness right there.
It absolutely highlights their collective failure. One after another, they try and fail. Leodes, the seer among them, tries first, fails, and prophetically laments, "This bow will take the life of many a chiefs among us." Antinous and Eurymachus, the main contenders, also struggle. They end up blaming the bow, saying it must be impossible to bend rather than admitting their own weakness. Even Telemachus tries, and almost succeeds on his fourth go, showing his own growing strength, but Ulysses subtly signals him to stop, saving the moment for himself.
Then the beggar asks for a turn. The suitors are outraged, naturally. The shame if he succeeded. But Penelope defends his right to try, offers gifts if he wins. She's asserting herself.
Oh, their reaction is pure fury and wounded pride. Antinous yells, "Wretched creature, you have not so much as a grain of sense. You ought to think yourself lucky." They're terrified of the scandal if a beggar strings the bow. But Penelope stands up to them, says the stranger is strong and well built, says moreover that he is of noble birth. She offers him fine clothes, weapons, safe passage if he succeeds, daring them to deny him.
And this is where Telemachus fully steps up. Tells his mother to go inside, says the bow is his responsibility now. Eumaeus hands the bow to Ulysses, despite the threats, and Ulysses strings it effortlessly, like a musician, then shoots the arrow clean through all 12 axes. Breathtaking. Vindication.
Telemachus' declaration is key. "Mother, I am the only man who has the right to let anyone have the bow. Go, within the house. This bow is a man's matter and mine above all others, for it is I who am master here." Huge moment for him. The suitors jeer, but fall silent as Eumaeus gives Ulysses the bow. The description is iconic. He strung it as easily as a musician strings a lyre. His right hand twanged the string and sang like a swallow. Then bang, takes aim, sends the arrow clean through the holes in all the 12 axes. It's a statement. He's back.
And right then, Zeus sends a thunderclap. Clear divine approval. The stage is set. No turning back.
That thunderclap seals it. The gods are on his side. It's the signal. The slaughter begins now.
First target. Antinous, most arrogant, most abusive, catches him just as he's about to drink wine, arrow straight through the throat, brutal, sudden, and a message.
A deliberate, shocking opening move. Antinous is completely unaware, about to take up a two-handled gold cup, no thought of death. Ulysses shoots him in the throat, and the point went clean through his neck. Graphic detail. He fell over, cup dropped. Thick stream of blood gushed from his nostrils. He kicked the table, upset the things, bread and roasted meats, all soiled.
And there's that detail Butler noted again. The waste of food, even now. Killing the ringleader first sets the terrifying tone.
The suitors panic, realize it's not an accident, look for weapons, and find none. Eurymachus tries to bargain, offers massive reparations, but Ulysses isn't having any of it. Total dismay. They sprang, looked everywhere towards the walls, but there was neither shield nor spear. The plan worked. Eurymachus pleads, offers restitution. We will make immense reparations, pay you back all that has been drunk and eaten, add 20%. But Ulysses is ice cold. You have dishonored my house, tried to corrupt my wife, oppressed my servants, and not one of you shall escape. No mercy, justice is demanded.
So Ulysses, Telemachus, Eumaeus, and Philoetius arm themselves, a tiny force against over 100. But then the treacherous goatherd Melanthius tries to arm the suitors, sneaks out to get weapons.
Yes, Melanthius' betrayal is stark. He manages to slip out and bring back 12 shields with as many helmets and spears. Ulysses realizes immediately someone inside is helping, or it may be Melanthius. Telemachus admits he left the storeroom door unlocked. Eumaeus and Philoetius immediately go after Melanthius, catch him, tie him up brutally, and hang him by his hands and feet, leaving him suspended in agony for later. Swift, harsh justice for the traitor.
Minerva helps out too, disguised as mentor, deflects spears, pushes things along but makes them work for it, tests them.
Her presence is crucial, both physically and morally. As mentor, she stands by Ulysses. When the suitors throw spears, Minerva made them all of no effect. One hits the doorpost, another the door, another the wall. Then she flies up to the rafters as a swallow. But the text explicitly says she would not give him full victory as yet, for she wished still further to prove his own prowess and that of his brave son. It's a trial by fire, proving their worth.
The battle sounds incredibly fierce. Graphic descriptions, bodies piling up, the hall covered in blood and filth like a lion. Ulysses shows zero mercy, even kills Laodes the seer who begs for his life, though Telemachus spares the bard Phemius and the herald Medilgon.
Unsparingly graphic. The hall is carnage, bespattered with blood and filth like a lion that has just been devouring an ox. Even so was Ulysses besmirched with gore. Laodes pleads, claims innocence, but Ulysses remembers him prophesying he wouldn't return and kills him anyway. But Telemachus shows discernment. He specifically asks Ulysses to spare Phemius, arguing bards are sacred, and Mandon, because Maon had been kind and warned Penelope. It shows his growing moral compass amidst the brutality.
Once the slaughter is over, it's a gruesome scene. Euryclea arrives, ready to cheer, but Ulysses stops her, tells her it's unholy to vaunt over dead men. A moment of solemnity.
Yeah, Euryclea sees the corpses and is about to cry out with joy, but Ulysses immediately checks her. Old woman, rejoice in silence. It is an unholy thing to vaunt over dead men. Heaven's doom and the wickedness of these men have been their ruin. It maintains a level of tragic dignity, shows respect for the gravity of death, even justified death.
Then Telemachus deals with the disloyal maidservants. Chillingly declares they won't get a clean death and hangs them most miserably with the ship's cable. Harsh ancient justice.
It is stark. Telemachus commands the loyal men to deal with the 12 maids who betrayed the household by sleeping with the suitors. He says, I shall not let these women die a clean death, for they were insolent to me and my mother. He has them hung in a row from a cable. They die most miserably. It's a grim collective punishment, showing the severe consequences of disloyalty in that world.
And Melanthius, the goatherd, his fate is even worse. Nose, ears cut off, vitals fed to dogs, hands and feet chopped off. Truly brutal.
His punishment is the most savage, reserved for the deepest betrayal. They bring him down from where he was hanging. There, they cut off his nose and his ears. They drew out his vitals and gave them to the dogs raw. And then in their fury, they cut off his hands and his feet. It's gruesome, a horrifying spectacle meant as the ultimate warning against treachery.
After all that, Ulysses purifies the house with sulfur and fire, cleansing the space.
Yes, a vital ritualistic act. Marks the spiritual and physical restoration. He tells Euryclea, bring me sulfur and fetch fire that I may purify the cloisters. This fumigation cleanses the defilement of the suitors and the violence, ending the chaos, restoring sanctity, prepares the house for peace and for Penelope's true welcome.
Reconciliation and last in peace.
Now for the final, really intimate recognition, Penelope. Euryclea tries desperately to convince her Ulysses is back, but Penelope, after all these years of false hope, is still so cautious. Understandably.
Euryclea bursts in, ecstatic. Ulysses has come home again. He was a stranger. Tries to describe the bloody scene, thinking Penelope would enjoy it. But Penelope is guarded, almost numb. She tells Euryclea if anyone else brought such absurd news, she'd scold them severely. Even Telemachus gets frustrated, saying, Mother, but you are so hard that I cannot call you by such a name. She's caught between disbelief and hope, needing absolute proof.
And she gets it with her legendary test, ordering their marriage bed to be moved. Ulysses knows its secret built around a living olive tree, immovable. That specific shared knowledge finally breaks through her defenses.
It's Penelope's genius stroke, the ultimate test. She tells Euryclea, take the bed out of the main room. knowing it's impossible. Ulysses immediately reacts, astonished, explaining its unique construction. There is no man living who could move it. There was a young olive growing. I built my room around this, cut off the top boughs, left the stump standing, making it into a bed prop. That intimate secret known only to them shatters her doubt. Relief washes over her.
Her limbs grew weak. She rushes to him, weeping, finally embracing him, explains her fear of being deceived. Then they share their stories, finally reconnecting after 20 years. The real emotional climax.
Total emotional release.
Her limbs grew weak. She rushed to him with tears, flung her arms about his neck, and kissed him. She tearfully explains her caution. I have been shuddering all the time through fear that someone might deceive me, for there are many very wicked people. Then they recount everything, his journey, her endurance. It's that profound, quiet moment of reunited intimacy, the true homecoming.
But even then, Ulysses is thinking ahead, worried about the news of the slaughter getting out. He orders music and dancing to pretend it's a wedding feast, buys them time.
His strategic mind never stops. He tells Telemachus and the servants, first wash, put your shirts on, tell the maids, dress. Phemius shall then strike up a dance tune, so that if people outside hear, they may think there is a wedding, and no rumors about the death of the suitors will get about. A brilliant final deception to mask the massacre, prevent immediate panic and revenge from the suitors' families. The next day, he goes to see his father, Laertes. Another crucial reunion to complete the family circle.
Yes, and just before that, we get that scene in Hades where the ghosts of the suitors, led by Amphimedon, tell Agamemnon and Achilles what happened. Penelope's weaving trick, the bow contest, the slaughter. It provides this external validation of Ulysses' actions, even from the dead suitor's perspective.
And Ulysses tests Laertes too. Pretends to be someone else at first, sees his father's immense grief.
He does. He finds Laertes looking wretched, digging about a plant, old, unsavory, and very meanly clad. Ulysses pretends to be Eperitus, a stranger looking for Ulysses whom he claims to have hosted years ago. Laertes' reaction is heartbreaking. A dark cloud of sorrow fell upon Laertes. He filled both hands with dust and poured it over his gray head, groaning heavily. That raw grief proves his enduring love, and Ulysses can't maintain the pretense any longer.
So he reveals himself, shows the scar again, and Minerva gives Laertes a boost.
Ulysses says, I am he, father. I have returned after 20 years. Shows the boar scar as proof. Laertes weeps, embraces him. Then Minerva steps in, makes Laertes taller and stouter, revitalizing him. The loyal servants, Dolius and his sons, also recognize Ulysses, welcome him joyfully. The loyal core of the household is restored.
But it's still not quite over. The families of the dead suitors want revenge, led by Antinous' father, Eupeithes, threatens to plunge Ithaca right back into violence.
Indeed, the cycle of vengeance looms. Eupeithes rallies the grieving families, but Medon the herald and Phemius the bard, who were spared, testify to the mob that Ulysses had divine backing, that an immortal god took the form of Mentor and fought beside him. The old prophet Halitherses also scolds the Ithacans, blaming them for not controlling their son's wickedness in the first place. They have every reason to back down.
But Eupeithes doesn't listen, leads an attack, and Laertes, rejuvenated, kills him.
Eupeithes, driven by grief, leads the attack anyway. A brief skirmish starts, and then Laertes, filled with new strength by Minerva, throws a spear and kills Eupeithes, striking down the leader of the revenge mob. A symbolic end to that specific line of vengeance.
And finally, Minerva steps in decisively as Mentor again. Orders peace. Zeus confirms with a thunderbolt.
Yes, the final definitive intervention. Minerva, as Mentor, descends and shouts, Men of Ithaca, cease this dreadful war and settle the matter at once without further bloodshed. Zeus sends a thunderbolt right in front of her as a sign. Ulysses obeys. Then Minerva assumed the form and voice of Mentor and presently made a covenant of peace between the two contending parties. Harmony is finally restored, the fighting stops.
The cycle is broken, Ulysses is home, peace is restored. But there's still that lingering prophecy from Tiresias, isn't there? That final journey Ulysses still has to make.
Yes, that shadow remains. A reminder that a hero's work is never truly done. Tiresias foretold he must carry that ore inland, find people who know nothing of the sea or salt, plant the ore, sacrifice to Neptune, then return home and sacrifice to all the gods. Only then is he promised that gentle death from the sea in his old age. It suggests that even after homecoming, there's one last duty, an act of reverence to fully appease the forces he battled, integrating his past struggles into a peaceful future.
What an incredible saga. Endurance, cunning, gods intervening. Ulysses' journey, especially seen through Butler's translation, is just a powerful testament to perseverance. and that complex dance between fate and our own choices.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? When we face our own struggles, feel lost. Are there unseen forces maybe subtly guiding us? Or is it ultimately down to us, like Ulysses? Our own cleverness, our own determination to find our way back home, whatever home means for us, and achieve some kind of peace.
This has been the Uncanny Valley podcast. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Homer's Odyssey through a fresh lens.